Morning, everyone that's joining. We'll just give a few extra minutes for others to join in. Thank you very much for your patience. Karina, I'll actually let you start it off since you'll control your own slides here. So I will stop the share.
Okay.
Very fast, and you can take control.
Just let me know, Jesse, when you want me to go ahead.
Yep, we'll just give a couple more minutes for people to join on. Probably just two more, and then we'll kick it off. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll be starting very soon. Alrighty. Good morning and good evening to everyone that's joining. Thank you very much for joining today. We appreciate your time to meet with us and to speak with us today. My name is Jesse Graham, and I work with Opportunities New Brunswick. Opportunities New Brunswick's the lead economic development agency for the province of New Brunswick in Canada. And for those that aren't aware, the province of New Brunswick in Canada is located on the eastern coast, just above the state of Maine in the United States. And today we're going to be talking about one of our key economic sectors, which is cybersecurity. We've got a great stack of panelists today that are going to shed some light onto why New Brunswick is an excellent place for companies to grow and develop that are in that space or can benefit from that space. And some of those speakers will be one of my colleagues, Karina Zagaevsky, who's dedicated to the cybersecurity industry in the province. We have Tyson Johnson from Cyber New Brunswick. We have David Shipley from Beauceron Cybersecurity. We'll have Sarah Corey Hollahan joining us from Knowledge Park, which is our innovation district here in the city of Fredericton, but also one of the few in the province. We'll also be having Jan Samar join us towards the end from a company called Cognitive Spark. So I think we have a great lineup of people to speak today. And without further ado, Karina, I'd love to hand it over to you to kick things off.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesse. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Good morning, good evening. I know we have people from around the world, so that's amazing. My name is Karina, and I'm with the investment attraction team, and I'm focused on the cybersecurity sector. So I'll be glad to present you our ecosystem today. I'm originally from France, and I moved here about 3 years ago, and it's still one of the best decisions that we took in our life. Either personally or for businesses, New Brunswick has a lot of advantages, so I'll be glad to present that today. So as Jesse mentioned, New Brunswick is on the east coast of Canada, and with a big time zone advantage. We are the first one to wake up in the morning in Canada, so we can in the same day work both with Europe and with the rest of the North American continent. So it's great when you have customers all over the world. It's great when you have to work with both Europe and with North America. So we are pretty advantaged in that in New Brunswick. And a few other advantages, and not the only ones, but we like to think the 4 more important advantages here. Well, first of all, I would say it's our people. We are very proud of our population, of the talent that we have here, the bilingual people. About 34% of the New Brunswickers are bilingual in French and English. And with all the education and all the programs that we have here, our people are very, very high skilled. So it's a great opportunity for your company to be here and to be able to get this talent. The size of our province gives us a big agility. It's a small province, but it makes us very successful. We can get the decisions made very quickly. You can be connected to the decision makers very quickly, and you can navigate the province pretty easily. If you compare that to the other provinces in Canada, if you look at Ontario or British Columbia, then you won't get the same access as here, where we know each other and we can help you to get connected very quickly. The other advantage is the innovation. Again, we are small, but we are very innovative. A lot of things are happening here. A lot of projects are happening here, either on the private sector or with academia, with all the labs and all the research that is done here. And we'll have a little bit more information later on in this presentation. And the last one would be our infrastructure. We have a vast fiber optic network, and we are the first one in Atlantic Canada to have the 5G network right here in Fredericton. Pretty proud of that. So it makes it very easy for the ICT companies, cybersecurity companies to operate from here. Also, they work from home. And you'll have a great presentation from Sarah as well to know about our state-of-art building that is designed for cybersecurity companies. And by having all these advantages, you also have the cost competitive advantage being here in New Brunswick. So if you compare again with Toronto, and I say Toronto because a lot of people that I know from France specifically, if you talk about Canada, they would think about Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver directly. They don't think about New Brunswick. And right here in New Brunswick, you can save a lot of money with the tax, with the cost of living, with the wages, and a lot of other things. Just to give you a quick example, working with a client right now, and we are thinking about 50 people over the next 3 years and a 5-year plan, and we end up finding that they will save up to 4 million Canadian dollars in 5 years. And that's just with the difference between the salaries in New Brunswick and in Toronto, between the renting a space here in New Brunswick or versus Toronto, and the financial incentive that we have. If you addition all this, they could save up to 4 million, which is huge. So we work with companies very individually. We try to understand what is your need, what are your plans, how we can help you, and then we come up with a cost model to prove you that being here, not only you get all the advantages of being among all those great people, this great ecosystem, but you also will save money. As you can see here, New Brunswick has different key sectors, but cybersecurity is one of the most important one because it's so transversal. All the other sectors, they find that cybersecurity is essential to their business. You take either digital health or energy or advanced manufacturing, they will all have some part of cyber. So they will all rely on our knowledge here in New Brunswick, because we make sure that the critical infrastructure is secure and we can innovate securely here in the province. The bottom line, again, our people, 1 in 3 New Brunswickers is fluent in English and French. We don't have the turnover that all the other big cities have. And so if you have an employee, if you treat them well, they will stay with you. They will be very fidèle in French. And as I said, high skilled talent because of our 16 regional universities and 48 regional community colleges. And also when you come to New Brunswick, what makes it very unique for us, it's you will have a client engagement specialist that is dedicated to you and that will help you with finding the talent, retaining the talent, promoting the job offers, and also connecting you to the immigration department. So if you have people that are in India or in Europe or anywhere else in the world and you want to bring them here in the province, then you'll have someone who will be dedicated to you, to the company, and will help you with all this. So you don't have to go through the hassle of the administrative part. We'll do all the work with you and make sure that you have support in that. We already have experience with lifting and shifting people from other countries, the entire families. So we'll not only make sure that the person who applied for a job will come here or who is creating a job in a company here, but also their family. So the spouses will make sure that they are well connected in the community. The kids will make sure that they go to the right school. So we'll help with all that as well. If we look today, just here in Fredericton, we have about 700 people that work in the cybersecurity sector. If we look at the province, we would be more at about 1,500 people. So it's a great pool already to start to hire right here in the province. As you can see here, it's a lot of information. You don't have to read all that. It's just to show you that a lot of things are happening, and it didn't start just a few years ago. It started in the 1950s. We are the first province who had a faculty of computer science in Canada, and we are pretty proud of that. And out of this faculty and university, Q1 Labs, one of the biggest acquisition in Canada, was born. A student of UNB created this company, and it was purchased later by IBM for about 600 million Canadian dollars. And as I say, it's one of the biggest acquisition in Canada. And what IBM decided to do afterwards is to create their Center of Excellence in cybersecurity right here in Fredericton. So instead of just purchasing this company and going somewhere else, they decided to stay here. And so the headquarters for cyber is right here in Fredericton. A lot of other things happened in 2010 with the creation of the Cyber NB, and Tyson will give you more details on that. With our community colleges that created their postgrad programs in cybersecurity, and also with the CIC, the Canadian Institute for Cyber, that opened its door at UNB. And we're continuing, we're still on our excitement to create a lot of new things, and we won't stop here. In 2020, CCNB, the Francophone college and community college, is partnering with the ECC to expand the cybersecurity education. We have our Knowledge Park building, the Cyber Center, that will open its doors. So a lot of things are happening, and we make sure that we understand what the industry needs, we understand what the sector needs, make sure that it's successful. And a big part of that is to have the talent. So to work closely with the educational department, with the academia, make sure that they provide the great talent for the industry. As I was saying, CIC is right here in New Brunswick, and they make sure that they train and they deliver high qualified cyber talent. They work in research and development, and they also have a CISOC. So our engagement as ONB, what we want to achieve is really to drive collaboration between the academia, the private sector, and the public sector. Make sure that we work all together and we understand what are the challenges in cybersecurity. We also work very closely with the academia and encourage the research, the applied research. Our team is working with both local companies to make sure that they thrive, and also we work with international companies to make sure that they succeed here in the province and try to attract them here in New Brunswick. And again, expand the cybersecurity education, make sure that even kids are exposed to all the cyber challenges and they have this awareness, so they become great talent for the future. When you come to New Brunswick, you are not alone here. We have already a great ecosystem. We have international companies. Siemens has its center of excellence in cyber here. We have IBM, as I say, but we also have great local companies, and we are very proud of them. We have Bosron, Bulletproof, Cognitive Spark, and you'll hear a little bit more about this later in the presentation. And so we are ready to have you here. We want you here. And you have a lot of advantages by operating from New Brunswick and having your business all over the world, but having your center of excellence for cyber right here in the province. So that's it for me. And I think I'm giving the
Thank you
team
very
back now
much.
to Tyson.
I can step in just for a quick moment, Karina. Thank you kindly for sharing that with us this morning. It's a great presentation, and just kind of listening to your speech there, there's a few key points that I would even like to just to chat about a little further. So one of those really being, you mentioned, immigration and how we try to grow, our talent pool here and support companies as such. It's a really good point because, as you mentioned, Opportunities New Brunswick has a team called the Client Engagement Team. And this team is really dedicated to working with companies and finding the best way for them to grow. And they'll also kind of help you navigate some of these immigration pathways into the province. So it's kind of a unique feature that not a lot of jurisdictions take on, and really make efforts to kind of innovate that landscape, because as many of you may or may not know, that process to physically, move to a new country and immigrate into it successfully, it can be a bit of a daunting challenge. It's often a lot of paperwork and a lot of back and forth. So it can often, be an anxiety-inducing process or just a tricky one to navigate to begin with. But we've got a team that's really dedicated to working with you on that to help you navigate that, to make it as smooth as possible. And if you'll notice, just in the chat, I inserted a website in there, www.welcomenb.ca. Just for those of you that might want to take a look at that in advance, if this is of interest to you, that's a great starting point for getting some information on some of the different pathways we have into the province. And it would really be a good place to start, just to kind of get your head into it, see what lies ahead of you, and then we can obviously have a conversation from there. And just one more point I wanted to bring up. I noticed we have quite a large representation of folk from the country India here today. And New Brunswick's actually been very fortunate in the sense that, we've really dedicated and committed to the Indian market. By 2021, we will actually have a physical location in the country. Currently, while we don't have a physical operation there, so to speak, we do have multiple partners on the ground that are advocating on our behalf until we can actually have our own office there. Of course, that has been delayed due to the global situation with the pandemic. However, we're still making strides in progressing that initiative forward. But just for example, the International Trade Council, as many of you have probably communicated with in advance of this presentation. They're an amazing group with an office right in Delhi, and they're very much a great conduit to connect with us or to connect with people within our ecosystem, as well as we have a partner called the ICBC, which is the Indo-Canadian Business Chamber. They work very closely with companies as well, and are quite familiar with our value proposition, and they can very much kind of act on our behalf if you are looking to connect with us in other ways, or are looking to learn more about our province, kind of within your own home country. So there's just two key points there that I did want to bring up, as I think they are fairly important to companies that might be looking this way to grow and expand your business. But nevertheless, Karina, thank you again very much. Our next speaker will be, as Karina alluded to, Tyson Johnson, the Chief Executive Officer of Cyber New Brunswick. And Tyson, without further ado, I will hand the microphone off to you, and I'm happy to control your presentation in the background.
Super. So good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everyone. And just before we get started, we had a fun COVID Zoom moment here earlier as the cameras opened, and David Shipley and I realized that we look like identical twins here on the call. so if you're wondering who's who, just look at the name written into the image square. But good day to everyone. My name is Tyson Johnson. I am the CEO at CyberNB. Used to be a employee of ONB, so Opportunities New Brunswick. So Jesse and Karina were formerly colleagues of mine. And ONB had the vision a number of years ago, as you saw in the timeline, to build a enablement program, a coordinating body called CyberNB, whose job it is and still is to help coordinate across industry, academia, and government to drive innovation and collaboration to help companies grow. And what we've done recently is we've exited now as a not-for-profit entity. But we keep the same mandate and we keep the same goals. And those goals or those mandates and those pillars that we operate under are here on this first slide. So for everyone on the call, you heard what we're doing in the province from Karina. And our job is to help make sure that once you're here, we help you achieve greater success by actively coordinating opportunities between your organizations and other organizations here in our ecosystem. And we do that through a 4-pillar strategy. So we'll start with workforce and skills, and we'll go around the circle. So on the workforce and skills side, as Karina alluded to, we take great pride in ensuring that there's a talent pipeline graduating from our colleges and universities to fill the roles that are growing into these organizations. That's why the Siemens and the IBMs of the world, who created their global centers of excellence here, agreed to come here, was the promise that there is indeed a talent pipeline, so that as they grow their numbers of employees, we have the talent to help fill those roles. And we work on that all the way from early childhood education all the way up to post-secondary. And we would have some new programs that are working on with exiting members of the armed forces. We actually have one of the largest land force bases in the country, about 15 minutes away. And they have a number of exiting members of the armed forces each year. And those with the aptitude and skill set will be cross-trained and upskilled, and they become assets in the cybersecurity space. So we're excited about the talent pipeline, and we work on that continually every day with our college and university partners and our private sector partners. To the left, trust and compliance. We're also heavily involved with the Government of Canada in helping them promote and implement cybersecurity certification initiatives with the organizations in this country. The ability to build a resilient organization and operate resiliently has never been more important here in this post-COVID world, where everyone's working remotely or has more footprint online. There's a need to ensure that the companies operate in a way that is safe and secure. So we support the federal government of Canada's readiness program called Cybersecure Canada, and work with companies to help them get certified. We also are looking at other opportunities. We're opening up a transparency center here early in the new year, and that'll be announced very shortly with a testing partner who will ensure that as companies come here and develop new technologies and new capabilities, that they also have the opportunity to have their technology tested and validated, so that when they do go to market, they're going to market safe and secure with their products and services. Down in the bottom left corner, you have innovation and infrastructure. On the innovation infrastructure side, Karina alluded to on the timeline as well, the Critical Infrastructure Security Operating Center. We do put a heavy focus on the cybersecurity areas that promote and help secure critical infrastructure across all sectors. So whether that's healthcare or telecoms or smart grid, smart city, energy and utilities, etc., those are all the commanding heights of the digital economy. And our goal is to help build collaboration, help support research and development in those areas to help mature the cybersecurity readiness of those organizations and of those infrastructures. So as such, we're leaning forward on this, and we're helping to collaborate and coordinate new initiatives that will see increased levels of information sharing between organizations, including government agencies, to come up with new ways of defending and protecting infrastructure effectively. We also work and connect into the broadband issues that are here in this country, as they are in every other country. And we're working with government, both provincial and federal, on the broadband issues. And then the last pillar is the growth and commercialization pillar. And this ties directly in, as much as workforce and skills and creating the talent pipeline is important, it's also important that we help do our part to help drive growth and commercialization of companies that are here, and obviously help promote the region for those that want to come here and participate. And so we work closely with a number of different organizations across the province, federal and municipal, as well as private sector. And one thing that's going to be announced very shortly, Jesse, if you just move to the next slide, I'll leave it here as we transition to the next speaker, but this will be announced shortly, is we have coordinated a few organizations together that are interested in collaborating for a new incubator and accelerator initiative. And this will bring in a number of organizations who are keen to collaborate, including the largest angel syndicate in the world, who will be a partner with us here. So what we're looking in both the incubator and the accelerator programs will also support the Startup Visa Initiative, which is a program where companies from outside of Canada can apply and receive access and fast track towards permanent residency, and then receive all the supports that come with that as they come here and help build their companies in this ecosystem. I'm sure some of our speakers, as we move forward, will have more to say on that immigration side. So we're excited about this. This is a great opportunity to help support companies coming into this ecosystem. And when you hear about some of the speakers, David and Jan and others who are here in the ecosystem, you're going to hear and see the types of companies that you get to actively coordinate and collide with to help grow your business, to help identify synergies and potentially new product and service offerings. So we're excited about this. So stay tuned for more on this. And obviously, if you want to learn more, you can reach out to Jesse or Karina, or you can connect with CyberNB directly. So with that, thank you so much. I look forward to, I'll stick around in case there are questions later on in the presentation. And I look forward to watching my colleagues speak here after me. So thanks again.
Thanks kindly, Tyson. That's a great insight to the ecosystem here. And I love that we do touch on the startups. It's always something that, is definitely important, and especially in a, an emerging sector and a priority sector in general, such as cybersecurity, kind of having that, that soft landing space, that place where you can really collide and meet with people on a frequent basis is so valuable that it's often something I never want to see underscored. So I'm happy that we could shed some light on that today. Moving on to our next participant today, we have Sarah Corey Holohan, who is the director with Ignite Fredericton, as well as Knowledge Park. Knowledge Park is an innovation hub that lives in the city of Fredericton, which is our capital city here in the province. And she's going to actually speak about some very cool projects that they have going on, as well as, and I don't even want to steal too much thunder, so I should leave it for her. So Sarah, I'll end my share now and allow you to take control. So there you go. It's open for you now.
So everyone can watch me struggle with this.
Yeah, of course.
8 months in, still don't have it down pat.
Hey, we're figuring it out slowly.
So hopefully you can see my slide deck. Thumbs up. Okay, perfect. So I'm going to, while the introduction of Ignite Fredericton, we are the city's economic development agency. So I think the first little bit of this morning was more provincially focused. Definitely all of the advantages that were highlighted earlier are definitely amplified. I am going to speak specifically to the Fredericton ecosystem. just because that's my role, and I would probably get my knuckles wrapped if I didn't. So moving forward, I see that there's been a lot of questions around immigration, and Tyson mentioned startup visa. Can't reiterate going to welcome welcome UNB that Jesse put in the chat line. That is a wealth of information. 2 weeks ago, we are on Canada Week with the TCS in India, and that they found that as an absolute awesome tool, as well as our websites at planethatch.com. I'll throw that in the chat afterwards. That speaks a little bit more to that startup visa component that Tyson was speaking about. So there's a lot of information here, so we can carry on the conversation afterwards. But for this morning, for my purpose, I'm going to talk about Fredericton's cybersecurity cluster. So we've alluded to a few different things. We do have some private industry folks that are going to be following me, so I'm not going to give the gem out of the gate, but essentially Fredericton is a beacon. It is carving out its place in the national, if not global leadership in critical infrastructure protection. And a lot of that has to do around the collaboration and the collision points that we have all been kind of talking about. So it is true, it does seem far-fetched, but it actually does happen. So Fredericton is just more than a small city. So yes, we are a small city, but the tagline here is that we punch well above our weight class. And the reason is that the ecosystem is absolutely stacked. So we have capacity and leadership that comes from private industry as well as academia. We have over 7 universities and training colleges that are producing top level talent. We produce around 72 to 75% of the provincial R&D dollars, primarily out of the University of New Brunswick. So if you're looking at any point of that of leveraging technology or leveraging R&D labs within the academia space, our university is known as one of the most entrepreneurial universities in North America and absolutely open for business. Population growth, Karina mentioned a little bit about that earlier. We do work hand in hand with immigration departments, specifically also with international students and bridging them into a permanent residency, as well as the startup visa if you're on that entrepreneurial path. Knowledge industry, I think we talked about some giants earlier. We've got some giants following me, so definitely it's always an indication when private sector chooses a place. Next slide was just a real touch point, high level touch point on the amount of R&D that actually is taking place in the city of Fredericton. What we call the innovation corridor spans about 2 kilometer radius within the city, and it captures about 60 plus research organizations and institutions and chairs. So that's, if you think about that just visually, that's a lot of people in a really small place that you can actually walk to. We've got the NRC, the RPC, you know, we've got research chairs all about it. So if you've got more questions specifically how to tap into that, it'd be much easier to do the one-on-one as opposed to talk about it as a blanket, just because we do have the expertise here. So why I'm here today is to talk about Knowledge Park. So Knowledge Park is uptown Fredericton, and it is Atlantic Canada's largest technology park. We are in the network of AURP, which is a national, international network of tech parks. Our CEO, who unfortunately couldn't be here today, a little under the weather, is actually the president and chair of the North American Tech Research Parks. And why I mention that is that that really connects us to what's going on. So while we may be in the city of Fredericton, New Brunswick on the east coast of Canada, we're absolutely rubbing shoulders with those making, you know, strides in other areas. So the knowledge transfer is there. We are a 37-acre tech park. We just recently built building number 6. Building number 6 is really focused on cybersecurity, so why we're here today. But what the success of Knowledge Park has been is based on this digital product development living lab. So the idea of Fredericton coming to Fredericton to set up your idea, build it, test it out on the specifics demographics that Fredericton offers, refine it, and then launch globally has been something that the private industry has taken advantage of and has been very successful with. So that has all essentially happened up in Knowledge Park. with the support of all the like-minded collaborators in the city. Network access, so I alluded to this a little bit earlier. The Association of University Research Parks, over 26 in Canada. So we are absolutely an active part of that. And as you'll see on the far right, we have Knowledge Park listed in health, life and science, ICT, and natural resources. So while we're talking about cybersecurity specifically today, or ICT, we do have 5 other sectors that we do play in. Cybersecurity, from our point of view, is a horizontal sector, and it crosses every single vertical. So it's not necessarily a one and done play. It translates over across everything. A good analogy is that you can't even buy an Apple today without coming across some sort of level of cybersecurity, whether it's manufacturing, purchasing, point of sale, etc. So it's literally everywhere. This slide here is just to give you that visual of that innovation corridor of all. We have the top 15 listed here that function in the R&D capacity that really drive innovation in the city of Fredericton and as well as New Brunswick. So while I focus on Fredericton, do realize that there is a ripple effect within the province. While we start innovation here, it does translate out throughout New Brunswick. We are a small province, so there is advantages across the province and in even Atlantic Canada for that matter. For today, cybersecurity, international leadership with our newest building, KP6. It is at completion right now. It is open, it is ready for tenants, and what this building is meant for, purpose-built, is for critical infrastructure protection. So we're looking at attracting those companies, those industries, those government organizations that are really looking at securing their resources. We're talking, fintech, academia, defense, communications, et cetera, et cetera. There's quite a few that we are actually targeting. And the idea is to create that collision point that was spoken to earlier. And the primary component of that collision point is the CI SOC under CyberNB. So we are really looking forward to create that shoulder to shoulder experience of visually seeing threats happen as they take place, get together, provide solutions shared across industries, and then carry on and keep the innovation moving forward without, too big of a bump in the road, I guess. So cybersecurity, Cyber Center is 135,000 square foot facility. It is 4 floors. It's actually 2 buildings joined by a center main communication unit. It is a level 2 building, essentially providing a classified and non-classified space. There are at least 2, if not 3, avenues of security before you can even access the building. It is post-event resilient for up to 96 hours at 100% capacity. So we're not talking, your lights and your refrigerators are working. We're talking absolutely everything is working. And we are really focused on attracting those types of clients that, again, in critical infrastructure, but at the same time, also very focused on R&D and collaboration. So we don't want tenants to go in the building and be siloed and, hoard their secrets. We want, you can still keep your secrets, but you got to share a little bit, and we've got to move the province ahead and Canada ahead. And we're using this building specifically for that. There's lots of things that make this building very unique. This would be the first building privately owned in Canada that is outside national defense, obviously. It is driven by private industry interest in the city of Fredericton and the province. And quite honestly, it's just a very cool building. Within the building, we have, Tyson spoke to a little bit before, we've got the CI SOC, we will have cyber innovations, we will have numerous training labs. And then one thing that we really believe in through Knowledge Park, Planet Hatch, Ignite Fredericton is the area for which students can come in and really tap into experiential learning. We really believe in the future of skills work and really bridging that transition of talent to private industry seamlessly. So my call out is, if you're interested in it, please reach out for more information, but we would love for you to come and be a part of Cyber Center and participate in any one of the various ways that you can collaborate with us. And I'm not Larry Shaw, I'm Sarah. So thank you. Jesse, I think you're on mute.
Yep, I am, and that's okay. That's bound to happen at one point, Dorothy. But thank you very much for the presentation, Sarah. Just for anyone who is maybe looking to get in touch with Sarah to chat further, well, of course, that was Larry's email, and he was unfortunately unable to join us today. info@knowledgepark.ca can surely get you in touch with Sarah or anyone on her team, so it would be a great point of contact if you are looking to chat on that. And without further ado, I'm going to slowly make the transition onto our next speaker. And our next speaker really is quite a unique scenario, in my opinion, and one of my favorites to talk about. This company really tackles, a side of cybersecurity that is incredibly important, but sometimes is not always what you think of when you really just think of cybersecurity in general. So I won't take too much of the presentation time away. And without further ado, I would love to introduce our next speaker, David Shipley from Beauceron Security.
Thanks so much, Jesse, and tough act to follow, Karina, Tyson, and Sarah, but I'll do my best. So my name is David Shipley, and I'm the Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of Beauceron Security. And before I dive into what we do, I should just explain, why did we name a cybersecurity company after a sheepdog from northern France? And for those who are wondering, that's what a Beauceron is. We named it that because we discovered that when you educate and empower individuals throughout an organization to truly understand cyber risk and help them understand the tools they can use to protect themselves, you turn them from the passive victims of cybercrime, the sheep, into the active defenders, or the sheepdogs. Now, sheepdog security was already unfortunately taken as a name, and as New Brunswick, as has been mentioned, is a bilingual province, we thought the noble breed of the Beauceron was a nice tribute that we could follow. So let's talk a little bit about why we think focusing on the human element is so important in my next slide. So when we look at information like the Verizon data breach report and other things, we realize that people are not the problem, that the issue that we see today when it comes to malicious attacks on organizations really can be tied back to people, process, and culture. And the most common technique used by criminals a decade into its original sort of impact on the market is still phishing. That is fraudulent emails designed with malicious attachments, links, and more. And so these fraudulent emails can cause havoc. And we've actually seen that across North America in numerous breaches, including, attacks against our municipalities across Canada. So when we talk about the importance of educating and empowering individuals, it's never been more important. Next slide. So our mission at Beauceron is to empower people to be in control of technology. And when we think about what the word cyber actually means, that it comes from a Greek word and it was chosen by the father of the field of cybernetics to illustrate the relationship between people, technology, and control, we think it's critically important. And we know we're filling a critical gap when we look at the global cybersecurity market. Approximately $175 billion is spent alone this year on cybersecurity, and about 1% of that is really focused on the human aspects. And with our technology, which is a software as a service platform hosted in the cloud, we now serve hundreds of customers, predominantly in North America, with a few in Europe, including one of the world's top 10 banks, as well as major telecommunications and banking firms. And we've grown our firm from just 3 people in 2017, leaving the University of New Brunswick, to 26 people today here in New Brunswick. And what I can tell you is the talent here is second to none. Our technology talent in terms of our developers and innovators are top notch. Our access and fiber network here in Fredericton is amazing. And it's how we can be so efficient in leveraging global data centers that Microsoft hosts in Montreal and Toronto to deliver our products and service effectively. it's been a phenomenal opportunity for us to build and grow our company here in New Brunswick. And I would say the pandemic has highlighted another advantage of New Brunswick. Our people are safer here in New Brunswick. And we see that in the fact that New Brunswick, up till about the last couple of weeks, has actually had better rates and control of this virus than even New Zealand. So it's a safe, great place, cost effective to work and build and scale a global company. Next slide. So when we think about cyber attacks, when we think about things in the headlines, I do want you to remember that the human aspects of cyber are really important, that we can't just try and solve this with firewalls and technology. Technology controls are really important, but what we have to do, we have to work on is changing individual and organizational behavior and help people make better decisions. Next slide. And this is an example of how we do that at Beauceron in terms of our personal dashboard. And we've introduced concepts around gamification, social proof, and making cybersecurity awareness not just about knowing something, but about actually caring about it and doing something about it. And it's an approach that's been extremely effective. What we help people do at Beauceron ultimately is help them answer questions, particularly at the individual, but also at the executive level. At the executive level, our metrics and dashboards and data that we provide to our customers help them answer questions like, how are we doing? How do we compare to others? And how do we improve? Next slide. Well, thanks very much for your time and my chance to talk a little bit about what we're doing at Beauceron. And if you want to learn more, you absolutely can check out our website and talk to my team. But I'm not here just to pitch about Beauceron. We've had a great success. I am incredibly proud to be a New Brunswick born, based, and thriving global business.
Excellent. Thank you kindly, David, for the presentation once again. Good. I'm making sure I'm just not muted once more. So David, just to build up on that, you mentioned, the safety of being in New Brunswick and the people here. I'm curious if, and I know you did touch on this a little bit, but if you could shed a little extra light on, how your company's benefited from being a digital company in the New Brunswick ecosystem, especially during a time of a world pandemic that we're all living through.
Well, I'd say a couple of different things that we've benefited from. I'm participating in this call from my home, which has got extremely good high-speed internet. And large swaths of our province have fiber to the home. In fact, I grew up in the neighborhood in New Brunswick, in Rothesay, that actually had the first fiber to the home in North America in the early 90s. We really did pioneer this. And the university that I went to and that I eventually worked for, University of New Brunswick, it and its network of partners run more than 1,400 kilometers of high-speed fiber connecting our top researchers and institutions, as well as the private internet connections that are available. So connectivity is huge. And, the fact that we're also peered with major networks through a hub in Moncton is a huge advantage as well to us. We've got connections to New York and Boston and others. So lots of connectivity on that side, and remote work has been huge, but also just the general approach New Brunswick has taken to controlling the pandemic. Few people outside of New Brunswick probably know how active a role our government actually played early. I mean, back in February, starting to talk about this and get ahead of it before things really intensified in March. And that saved a lot of lives here. And it's also preserved our economy, enabled us to continue to build and grow. And that kind of leadership makes all the difference these days.
Very best. Thank you kindly for that response. And you bring up a really good point, in terms of our pandemic response. For those on the call that may or may not have joined us yesterday, I touched on it briefly, but just to kind of put it into perspective, this is something every country in the world is arguably grappling with to some degree, some greater, some lesser. Specifically in the Atlantic region, which consists of 4 provinces on the very most eastern side of Canada, we've kind of been very blessed to, very much to what you said, David. We acted and responded quickly, and tried to pool our resources and ensure that we did whatever we could to mitigate the damage that this could cause, as well as to alleviate the pressure on our healthcare systems. That's definitely something in a situation we didn't want to find ourselves in. And just to shed some light on it for those that might not be familiar, I think today, as of today, in the province, we currently have about 90 active cases of COVID out of a population just shy of 1 million. And that's actually, from our point of view, that's higher than even we would like it to be. But I know, in the scope of the global landscape, that's so much less and so much more controlled than we're seeing in other places. And very much like you said, it is a testament to our response. And not only that, but our ability to kind of stay connected and to thrive in a digital economy when it matters the most. So great points, and I'll leave it at that for now. I'm going to take this opportunity to do a soft introduction to our next and final speaker. Today we have Jan Simard from Cognitive Spark joining us, and Cognitive Spark is an incredibly innovative company that's doing some amazing things with their technology. And I think they're one of the companies that's been able to very much benefit from being so close to the activity happening here in the province. So without further ado, I will end my share, Jan, and I will give you the reins to speak to the crowd today.
Thank you, Jesse. I'll just share my screen quickly. All right, you should be able to see my screen.
Looks good.
Thank you. So my name is Jan Simard. I'm the CEO of Cognitive Spark, and we're established in Fredericton. Actually, we're in Knowledge Park on the same floor in the same building that Tyson and his team at CyberNB are. So we run into these people all the time. And actually, I think that's one of the strengths of the ecosystem. We know people by name. So yeah, to come back to Cognitive Spark, what we do is industrial worker support. More specifically, we've built a secure application called Remote Spark that is used in the industrial world to provide remote worker support for workers, industrial workers that are on the field and need to connect with experts and content in order to do complex tasks. And that's an application that is optimized for the Microsoft HoloLens hardware, which is what you see that gentleman here in the picture wearing. So in case you're wondering what that thing is, well, it's essentially a pair of glasses with a bunch of sensors at the front that can superimpose holograms, 3D holograms on top of what people are seeing. So it's a pair of glasses, you can see through them, but at the same time, if you wear that, you might see in the room where you're at a hologram that you can interact with. So a few words about Cognitive Spark. So we're all about helping field workers be more effective at completing their tasks right the first time every time. And we have an interesting team composition. So we have people with more of IT backgrounds, and I'm one of them. But we also have very deep industrial expertise, especially in defense and aerospace, energy and utilities, manufacturing, and industrial engineering. So it's no surprise that it's also these are also our key markets. So Remote Spark, what it does basically is that if you have a field worker that is on site and is facing a situation like a piece of equipment that broke down, that worker is operating the equipment, so they don't necessarily know how to deal with the troubleshooting situation. So when that happens, they can put on the Microsoft HoloLens, they start our application on it, and they can call a subject matter expert, like maybe an engineer that is at the head office or quite frankly, anywhere else in the world. So through the computer, the subject matter expert is able to see in real time what the worker is seeing. They can talk to the person, and they can also add 2D and 3D guidance on top of what people are seeing. So 2D guidance could be that, as an example, they have a PDF showing an electric schema that they want the worker to look at. They can just drag and drop that on the computer side of things. And a few seconds later, it's going to show up as a floating 2D hologram in front of the worker. Now, if my subject matter expert also happens to have a 3D hologram, be it a CAD file that's been transformed into an animated hologram to show people how to do a repair, they can as well just import that on the fly. And a few seconds later, it's going to show up as a full 3D hologram in the field of view of the worker. And the worker can use that as a reference while they have their hands greasy and they're doing the actual work. If we look at what customers do, there's typically 3 levels of activation, and it will get us into the security conversation as well. So the step 1 is that they just do pure remote support with the help of a hands-free video feed, basically. Level 2 is that they start using 2D and 3D holograms a bit more actively. And the step number 3 is you can tie in IoT and ERP data to those holograms. So as an example, if a piece of equipment is producing data to an Internet of Things system, and it tracks in real time the vibration frequency of the equipment, the temperature, the oil pressure, or maybe the last maintenance dates and so on, we can display that information as part of the hologram. So when the worker is on site doing a repair, they essentially see a digital twin of that piece of equipment floating right in front of them, so they can use it to troubleshoot. Why customers buy? It's always the same. They're looking to reduce equipment downtime. They're looking to reduce the travel that is required for subject matter experts. And in a COVID world, in many cases, the experts are not even allowed to travel on site. So being able to provide effective, secure remote support is what makes the difference between doing the work and not doing it. We typically see a very fast ROI as well. And one of the things that we hear all the time is how critical security is to the equation. So there's not even an option of using a system where you have a doubt that you can get hacked or breached in any way. And that is why we're able, the fact that we thought about it right from the get-go allows us to work with some of the most sensitive customers in the world, especially in the defense sector and the aerospace one as well. We do a lot of work in the industry, in the energy world as well, where security is absolutely paramount. Another thing that we discovered from the get-go is that being able to work with non-ideal bandwidth is crucial, because it's nearly always the case on industrial sites. It doesn't matter if there's good quality fiber going to a site. There's always going to be some interference with the metal equipment around. So the fact that we're able to negotiate both security and low bandwidth situations well is giving us a lot of work. Now let's talk about security a bit. I just mentioned how paramount security is into everything we do. And when we started the company in 2016, the founders made a very conscious decision to not build a line of code without having security in mind. When we start to have process around the software as well, we thought, well, we need to make sure that we have a strong security foundation and that we'll be able to work our way up, especially when it comes to security accreditations and credibility for working with larger customers. So here's how the New Brunswick cybersecurity ecosystem was very helpful. So as I said, we built on a cybersecurity foundation right from the get-go. And guess what? Well, we had locally access to the thought leadership, the expertise, and the know-how to really bake in security into our product and services and process as well. And it's been a key differentiator for us in our market, which is industrial mixed reality. Many companies are thinking about security as an afterthought. And I think that the fact that we were able to do that from the get-go in an ecosystem that is very aware and capable when it comes to cybersecurity is proving to be a long-lasting asset for us. The fact as well that we work with an ecosystem that is increasingly recognized nationally and internationally, it helps a lot with credibility. So although we're doing really good, the Cognitive Spark is still a fairly small company. And sometimes we go and talk to some of the largest corporations in the world. So being able to say that, okay, we know our stuff, but we're also part of a network that knows cybersecurity really well. It's actually very helpful in getting us to access those customers that have the most sensitive use cases. We also had a nice surprise. So we're not selling cybersecurity per se. We sell secure mixed reality solutions, right? So the fact that when we start to recruit mixed reality developers, we were pleasantly surprised to see that the ones that, especially the ones that are graduating from the University of New Brunswick, which is tied to many cybersecurity organizations. They usually come equipped right from the get-go with the cybersecurity foundational knowledge that we need. So they think about security without even us having to tell them. It's really refreshing and a key differentiator again. What's also interesting, if we look at the market, we have CyberNB, we have companies in the ecosystem like Beauceron and others. It's really important to be able to say, well, we get along well with these guys, and we can work with them as well when it's needed. So we're doing that all the time. We're doing that with the research institutes as well. So that network of reputable partners, I think, is a key differentiator for all of us. And as I said earlier as well, we tend to know by name, at the very least, who the people are. We oftentimes had many chances to talk to them, even have a drink with them at events and so on. At least it used to be that way before this year. The fact that we have that resource and that level of familiarity with each other, I think is absolutely key. So I know I can pick up the phone and call pretty much anybody in the ecosystem, and I'll be able to talk to them probably within the day. So it's a very key differentiator, and we're super proud of having chosen to be in New Brunswick, and to have made that decision right from the get-go to be a key player in the cybersecurity ecosystem. And although we're not selling cybersecurity again, we're just benefiting from the environment. So I think it's if security is important for your company, and I think that security should be important for all the companies, New Brunswick is the right place to go from that perspective. So that's it for me, Jesse. And maybe we can go for questions.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you kindly for the presentation, as always, Jan. Really, really excellent showcase, just to really how, all kinds of digital companies can really benefit from the ecosystem here. So that does finish up the line of speakers we have today. So I'd like to thank everyone on our panelist side for joining. A couple points I just want to bring up just one more time before we depart for the day. We've discussed immigration kind of throughout this entire process and throughout this webinar, and I really just wanted to shine the light that it is something we certainly think of as a province, and to make that process the easiest for companies looking to expand here. So if that is something that is of interest to you, or is something that's come across your mind before, I just shared a link again into the chat, which is a really good starting point if you're looking to explore some of the different pathways that can get in. And after you've had a chance to review that, when you see something of interest, I'd recommend that we then have a conversation. Please feel free to connect with myself, Karina, or the panelists via LinkedIn. I always think that's a great way to stay in touch, and a great way to kind of informally introduce yourself in advance of even having a conversation. So a great platform to take advantage of. And just a few other bits that I did want to touch on is, well, today we talked plenty about of established companies, and I know Sarah touched quite a bit on some of the startups, as well as Tyson. We do have programs and programs designed to help startups specifically, but what I'm thinking of, and I think is a popular term used globally, is the startup visa. It might be something that a lot of groups are familiar with, and is something I always want to touch on before concluding. We have centers within our province that are nominees or candidates, so to speak, of that program. So they very much do work heavily on it, and they're there to really help expedite that process if you're looking to take advantage of that pathway not only into the country, but specifically into New Brunswick. So I'd very much encourage you to reach out. Sarah's organization, Ignite Fredericton, through Planet Hatch, is a great resource for that, and we can surely connect you with the right people to have that discussion. And very much, I just want to recap and to say that, New Brunswick is open for business, despite the current situation that we're all living in, and without fully understanding exactly when it may or may not succeed. We're very much open for business, and if you're looking to grow or expand your company, you should really think here instead of thinking of, some of the other more popular spots that you might think of when you think of North America. But, the talent, the innovation, the available infrastructure, and just the agility to operate as a company is really unparalleled here in the province. So with that, I think I will conclude, and thank you everyone kindly for joining. As I mentioned, please feel free to connect with us through LinkedIn if you'd like to chat more. And thank you very much, and have a great evening or afternoon or morning, wherever you may or may not be. So thank you again, everybody. And thank you to all the panelists.
Thanks so
Thank you.
much, Jesse, for the opportunity, and hope everyone stays safe.
Very much. Stay safe, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.